My wife, the CFO, let her little sister submit an application to transfer me hundreds of miles away. She called it a prank. I called it a reason to leave. So, I packed my bags, boarded the plane, and started a new life without her in it. The email arrived on a Tuesday. I remember this because Tuesdays were supposed to be our good days. The one evening each week when Maya and I both left work at reasonable hours, when we'd meet at that little Italian place on Burt Street and pretend we were still the people who'd fallen in love 8 years ago. Tuesday was sacred. Tuesday was proof that we still had something worth protecting. But that Tuesday, I didn't make it to dinner. I was sitting in my office on the 14th floor of Meridian Technologies, staring at my computer screen with the kind of disbelief that makes your vision go slightly fuzzy around the edges. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The coffee in my mug had gone cold hours ago. And on my screen in crisp corporate font was a notification that would eventually unravel everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Internal transfer request. Status approved. Employee Marcus Chen. Current location Seattle, WA. Requested location Anchorage, AK. Effective date 30 days from approval. Submitted by employee self-service portal. I read it 3 times, then 4. Then I picked up my phone and called HR. There's been a mistake, I said, my voice remarkably calm considering the earthquake happening in my chest. I didn't submit any transfer request. The woman on the other end, Carol, I think her name was, clicked through some screens. I'm showing the request was submitted through your employee portal, Mr. Chen. Last Thursday at 2:47 p.m., your credentials were used. That's impossible. I was in a client meeting last Thursday afternoon. I didn't even open my laptop. More clicking. A pause. Well, someone logged in with your credentials. And the request has already been approved by your department head and the regional manager. Anchorage has been looking for someone with your qualifications for months. They're quite excited about having you. Quite excited about having me in Anchorage. I hung up and sat there for a long moment, my mind racing through possibilities. A glitch in the system? Someone using my credentials by mistake? Corporate espionage? Each explanation felt more absurd than the last. Then another thought crept in, slow and insidious like smoke under a door. Maya, my wife, was the CFO of Meridian. She had access to everything, every system, every portal, every employee record. She could log into anyone's account if she wanted to. She could submit anything she wanted under anyone's name. But why would she do this? Why would she transfer her own husband to Alaska? I dismissed the thought as quickly as it came. Maya and I had our problems. A couple married 8 years didn't. But she wouldn't do something this cruel, this calculated, this sneaky. Would she? I called her instead of driving to the restaurant. Marcus, where are you? I'm already at the table. Something came up at work. Can you come home early tonight? We need to talk. A pause. Is everything okay? No, I said, I don't think it is. The house was dark when I got home, except for the kitchen light. Maya was sitting at the breakfast bar with a glass of wine still in her work clothes, the navy blazer and silk blouse that made her look every inch the powerful executive she was. Her dark hair was pulled back in the same sleek ponytail she'd worn to the office, and her laptop was open in front of her, numbers scrolling across the screen. You look terrible, she said when I walked in. Not mean exactly, just matter of fact. Maya had always been matter of fact. I feel terrible. I set down my briefcase and pulled up the email on my phone, sliding it across the counter to her. She picked it up, read it, and her eyebrows climbed her forehead. Alaska? You're transferring to Alaska? I didn't submit that request. Then who did? That's what I'm trying to figure out. She sat down and took a sip of her wine, her expression shifting from confused to thoughtful. Did someone get into your account? Have you checked your login history? I haven't had a chance yet, but Maya, I hesitated. You have access to the employee portal, right? As CFO. She looked at me sharply. What are you asking me, Marcus? I'm not asking anything. I'm just trying to understand how this happened. You think I did this? Her voice went flat. Dangerous. You think I submitted a transfer request to send my own husband to Alaska? I didn't say that. You implied it. I'm going to stop you right there. She stood up, wine glass in hand, and walked to the window that overlooked our backyard. If I wanted you gone, Marcus, I would just tell you to leave. I wouldn't play games. I wouldn't submit secret transfer requests. I would look you in the eye and say, this isn't working anymore. That's who I am. You know, that's who I am. I did know that Maya was many things. Ambitious, driven, sometimes distant, but she wasn't a game player. She was direct to the point of bluntness. So if it wasn't her, could someone else have accessed my credentials? I asked, She shrugged. It would have to look into it. But Marcus, you should probably focus on getting this transfer reversed. Call HR tomorrow. Explain the situation. Get it sorted out. It's probably just a system error. And if it's not, then someone is playing a very strange prank on you. Prank. That word would haunt me later. The next morning, I went to HR in person. Carol, the same woman I'd spoken to on the phone, sat me down in a cramped office that smelled like stale coffee and printer toner. Mr. Chen, I understand your concern, but the transfer request followed all proper protocols. It was submitted from your account during business hours, and it was approved through the normal chain of command, but I didn't submit it. Do you have any proof of that? I stared at her. I was in a meeting. Can anyone verify that? Of course they can. My whole team was there. The client was there. Then we'll need to do an investigation. But Mr. Chen, I have to be honest with you. These investigations take time and the transfer is already approved. Anchorage is expecting you in 3 weeks. 3 weeks? The email said 30 days. She glanced at her screen. It's been updated. The Anchorage office pushed up the timeline. They have a critical project launching and they need someone with your systems architecture experience immediately. My head was spinning. Can't I just refuse the transfer? Carol's expression softened. You can, but declining an approved transfer typically results in termination. Company policy. That's insane. That's corporate America, Mr. Chen. I left her office feeling like I'd stepped into some kind of Kafka-esque nightmare. Someone had hijacked my career, my life, and no one seemed to care about the how or why. Only the procedure, the policy, the chain of command. When I got back to my office, there was a sticky note on my computer monitor. Heard about Alaska. LOL. Guess someone doesn't like you. No signature, no indication of who'd left it, but I had a sick feeling in my stomach that I knew. Maya's sister, Jade, had been staying with us for the past 2 months. She was 26, 12 years younger than Maya, and she just finished her MBA. She was interning at Meridian in the marketing department, a favor Mia had pulled strings to her arrange. It'll be good for her, Maya had said when she proposed the arrangement. She needs real-world experience, and it's only for a few months. I'd agreed because that's what husbands do. You support your wife. You help her family. You don't make waves about minor inconveniences like having a houseguest who leaves her dishes in the sink and plays music too loud and seems to always be there no matter what room you walk into. Jade was difficult to like if I'm being honest. Not because she was unkind. She wasn't overtly cruel or malicious. She was just the kind of person who found everything amusing in a way that made you feel like you were the punchline of a joke you didn't understand. She'd smirk when I said something earnest. She'd roll her eyes when I talked about my work. She'd make little comments. Oh, Marcus is being serious again that were technically innocent, but somehow made me feel small. Maya never seemed to notice, or if she did, she didn't care. She's just young. Maya would say she'll grow out of it. But I wasn't sure people grew by out of cruelty. They just learned to hide it better. That night when Mia was working late as usual and I was alone in the kitchen making dinner, Jade walked in. Heard you're moving to Alaska, she said, opening the fridge and grabbing a yogurt. I froze. Where did you hear that? Office gossip. News travels fast in corporate land. She peeled back the foil lid and licked it. Sucks for you, I guess. Alaska in winter. That's like literally the worst place on earth. I'm not moving to Alaska. There's been a mistake. Aha. She took a spoonful of yogurt, her expression unreadable. Well, if you do move, at least you'll get away from all this. She gestured vaguely around the kitchen. The tension, the silence, the pretending everything's fine when it's obviously not. What are you talking about? Oh, come on, Marcus. You and Maya haven't been happy in years. Everyone can see it. You're just going through the motions. Working, eating, sleeping. Repeat. It's kind of depressing to watch, honestly. I set down the spatula I'd been holding. Jade, my marriage is none of your business. Maybe not, but I live here, so I get a front row seat to the dysfunction. She shrugged. I'm just saying maybe Alaska wouldn't be the worst thing. Fresh start and all that. She wandered back to her room, leaving me standing there with a pan of burning vegetables and a heart full of cold fury. That night, after Maya came home and went straight to bed without dinner again, I sat at my laptop and started digging. First, I logged into the employee portal and checked my recent activity. Sure enough, there it was, a login on Thursday at 2:47 p.m., the exact time I had been in my client meeting. The IP address was from inside Meridian's network. I took a screenshot. Next, I checked the physical location data. All Meridian computers logged their location when accessing the system. The request had been submitted from a computer in the marketing department. My stomach dropped. The marketing department where Jade was interning. I didn't want to believe it. Didn't want to think that my wife's sister would do something this vindictive, this disruptive. But the evidence was pointing in one direction and I couldn't ignore it. I took another screenshot. Then I started thinking about how she could have gotten my credentials. Had I written them down somewhere? No. I was careful about that. Had Maya shared them? That would be a serious security violation. One she'd never commit. But then I remembered something. 3 weeks ago, Jade had asked to borrow my laptop. Said hers was updating and she needed to send an urgent email. I'd handed it over without thinking. And I'd been logged into the portal. She could have seen my password, could have memorized it or taken a photo when I wasn't looking. She was clever, Jade. Too clever for her own good. I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen. What was I supposed to do with this information? Confront her? She'd deny it, call me paranoid, laugh it off as another example of Marcus being too serious, too sensitive. Tell Maya. That would put Maya in an impossible position, choosing between her husband and her sister. And given how things had been between us lately, I wasn't confident about which way she'd lean. Go to HR with what proof? Screenshots showing the request came from the marketing department. That wasn't definitive. Jade could say anyone in that department could have done it without a direct witness or a confession. It was circumstantial at best. I closed my laptop and went to bed. Maya was already asleep, her back to me the way it had been for months now. The next few days passed in a blur of tension and paranoia. At work, I tried to get the transfer reversed through official channels. I met with my manager, Dan, who seemed genuinely sympathetic, but ultimately helpless. Marcus, I don't know what to tell you. The request came through proper channels. It was approved at all levels. Anchorage is counting on you. If you back out now, you're looking at a serious black mark on your record, maybe even termination. But I didn't submit the request. Then how did it get submitted? I couldn't answer that. Not without accusing my sister-in-law and potentially blowing up my marriage. At home, things were even worse. Jade seemed to be everywhere, always watching me with that knowing smirk. She'd make comments about Alaska. I heard they have really long nights there. Lots of time to think about your life choices that were just subtle enough to be deniable, but sharp enough to draw blood. And Maya was oblivious, or maybe not oblivious, maybe just unwilling to see what was right in front of her. You need to stop obsessing over this transfer thing, she said one night when I brought it up again. Either accept it or fight it through proper channels, but stop making it into some conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory. Someone submitted that request under my name. Then it will figure it out. That's their job. It is taking forever. They don't consider it high priority. Then push harder. You're a senior engineer, Marcus. You have pull. Use it. But she was missing the point. Or maybe she was avoiding it. Maya, don't you think it's strange that this happened while Jade is here? While she has access to Meridian systems. Her expression went cold. Glacier cold. Are you accusing my sister of something? I'm just because if you are, you'd better have proof. Solid, irrefutable proof. Jade has been nothing but helpful since she got here. She's trying to build a career. She's not some villain in a soap opera. I didn't say she was. You implied it again. Maya stood up from the couch. I'm tired of this, Marcus. Tired of your paranoia. Tired of your victim complex. Tired of you treating my family like enemies. If you want to believe the whole world is out to get you, fine. But leave Jade out of it. She walked away. And I heard the bedroom door close with a finality that echoed through our empty house. That weekend, something shifted. I was in the garage sorting through old boxes, stress cleaning, I called it, when I found something that made my blood run cold. It was a notebook. One of those little spiral-bound ones you buy at drugstores. I didn't recognize it, but it must have been Jade's. It had fallen behind a shelf in the garage where she stored some of her things. I almost put it back, almost respected her privacy the way a decent person would. But then I saw my name on one of the pages, visible through the thin paper. I opened it. The first few pages were mundane. Meeting notes, to-do lists, expense tracking, but then I got to the middle of the notebook, and everything changed. Operation Marcus removal goal, get mom out of the picture. Timeline 2 to 3 months. Method transfer request Alaska ideal. Far enough, cold enough, miserable enough. Phase 1, get credentials. Done. Laptop trick worked perfectly. Phase 2, submit request during working hours. Done. Thursday, 2:47 p.m. Phase 3, wait for approval. Done. Faster than expected. Phase 4. Observe fallout and then underneath in different colored ink. Note, M suspects but can't prove anything. Perfect. Let him squirm. Maya will never believe him over me. She never does. I stood there in the garage, the notebook shaking in my hands. This wasn't a prank. This was premeditated, calculated, cruel, and my wife's sister had done it deliberately to destroy my career and my marriage. Why? The answer was on the next page. Why this matters. Maya deserves better than Marcus. He's holding her back. She's CFO at 36. Brilliant, ambitious, going places. And what is he? Middle management content. Boring. He doesn't challenge her, doesn't support her, doesn't deserve her. She'll thank me eventually. Once he's gone, she'll see clearly. She'll move on, find someone worthy, someone who matches her drive. I'm doing her a favor. And if she's mad at first, she'll get over it. Sisters before misters. I read it twice, then 3 times. Then I had to sit down on an old crate because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. Jade hadn't just submitted a transfer request. She'd orchestrated a plan to remove me from my wife's life because she deemed me unworthy. And the worst part of me wondered if she was right. I took photos of every page, multiple angles, clear shots, irrefutable evidence. Then I put the notebook back exactly where I'd found it. The smart thing would have been to confront them immediately, to lay out the evidence, demand answers, force accountability. But I was tired. So tired of fighting, of explaining, of defending myself against people who didn't want to believe me. I went upstairs where Maya was in her home office typing away at her laptop. Can we talk? I asked from the doorway. She didn't look up. Can it wait? I'm in the middle of quarterly projections. No, it can't wait. Something in my voice must have registered because she finally looked at me. What's wrong? I stepped into the room and closed the door behind me. I found something, I said. In the garage, a notebook. Okay, it's Jade's. And in it, she outlined her entire plan to submit the transfer request under my name. She calls it Operation Marcus Removal. Maya stared at me. What are you talking about? I have photos. She wrote everything down. How she got my credentials, when she submitted the request, why she did it. She thinks she's doing you a favor by getting rid of me. That's insane. I know. No, Marcus. Maya's voice hardened. I mean, it's insane that you would accuse my sister of something this elaborate based on what? Some notebook you conveniently found? I felt like I'd been slapped. Conveniently, Maya, I have photos, written proof in her own handwriting. Handwriting can be forged. Are you serious right now? She stood up, crossing her arms. I think you're looking for someone to blame. And Jade is an easy target. She's young. She's here. She's an outsider in our marriage. But this is ridiculous, Marcus. My sister loves me. She wouldn't sabotage my life like this. It's not your life she's sabotaging. It's mine. And since when do you care about your life? The words were out before she could stop them, and they hung in the air like smoke. Maya's expression flickered. Was that regret? But she didn't take them back. What does that mean? I asked quietly. It means, she sighed. It means you've been coasting, Marcus, for years. You take the safe path. You don't push for promotions. You don't take risks. You're content to just exist. And maybe Jade sees that. Maybe she wrote some stupid notes venting about it, but that doesn't mean she actually did anything. She did do something. I have proof. Then take it to HR. Take it to the police if you want. But I'm not going to stand here and let you vilify my sister based on circumstantial evidence. I stared at my wife, this woman I'd loved for near a decade, and saw a stranger. You're choosing her, I said. You're choosing her over me. I'm choosing to be rational. You're choosing to be paranoid. It's not paranoia if it's true. Then prove it. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. Every page, every damning word in Jade's handwriting. Maya looked at them for a long time. Then she said something that broke something fundamental inside me. Anyone could have written that. You could have written it yourself to frame her. I put my phone away. I see. I said, Marcus, no. I understand now. I finally understand. I left the room. I left the house. And I started planning. If you've ever felt the ground shift beneath your feet, not literally, but that soul-deep sensation of everything you believe being revealed as illusion, then you know what I was feeling that night. I drove around for hours. Just drove. No destination, no purpose, just motion. I ended up at a diner off the highway, one of those 24-hour places with fluorescent lights and waitresses who called everyone Arnhem. I ordered coffee I didn't drink and sat in a booth by the window watching the occasional car pass on the highway. My wife had chosen her sister over me, not in some dramatic soap opera fashion, but in that quiet, devastating way that told me everything about where I stood in her priorities. I had proof, written, photographic, irrefutable proof that her sister had deliberately sabotaged my career. And Maya's first instinct was to defend Jade, to question my sanity, to suggest I might be framing her. That last part hurt the most. After 8 years of marriage, after building a life together, after all the compromises and sacrifices and attempts to make it work, she thought me capable of forging evidence to destroy her sister's reputation. What kind of person did she think I was? What kind of person did she think she was to accuse me of that? The coffee grew cold, the sky grew light, and slowly, painfully, a decision crystallized in my mind. I was done. Not done fighting. I was done staying. If my wife wouldn't believe me, wouldn't choose me, wouldn't stand by me, even when I had proof in hand, then what was the point? What was I fighting for? A marriage that existed on paper, but not in practice. A partnership where I was always the afterthought. A life where I was deemed unworthy by the people who were supposed to love me most. No, if they wanted me gone, I'd go, but not the way they expected. When I got home at dawn, Maya was asleep. Jade too, presumably. I went to my office and started planning. The transfer was to Alaska, specifically Anchorage. I'd been researching the city over the past few days, initially to build my case for why I couldn't possibly relocate. But now I looked at it with different eyes. Anchorage was beautiful. Mountains and ocean, wildlife and wilderness, a city that felt like the edge of the world. And maybe the edge of the world was exactly where I needed to be. I pulled up the transfer paperwork and started reading, really reading the details. The position was actually a step up. Senior systems architect, not just systems architect, higher salary, better benefits, more autonomy. Meridian's Anchorage office was smaller, more agile, less corporate. They were working on cutting-edge projects, environmental monitoring systems, disaster response networks, things that actually mattered. I'd been so focused on the betrayal, the injustice, the violation of my autonomy that I'd missed what was actually being offered. An escape, a fresh start, a chance to be someone other than Marcus Chen, the husband who wasn't good enough, the employee who was content to coast, the man who didn't take risks. I made a decision then and there I would accept the transfer. Not because I was forced to, not because I couldn't fight it, but because I was choosing it. Choosing to leave behind a marriage that had died years ago. A wife who didn't respect me. A life that had become a prison of quiet desperation. But I would do it my way. I would document everything first. The next few weeks were a master class in compartmentalization. At work, I officially accepted the transfer. Dan was surprised but supportive. Sometimes change is good, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. Alaska might be just what you need. He had no idea how right he was. At home, I acted normal, or as normal as things had been lately. Maya and I continued our careful dance of avoidance. We talked about logistics, the weather, the groceries, the utility bills, but never about anything that mattered. Never about the notebook. Never about the transfer. Never about us. She thought I'd given up. She was wrong. I was preparing. Every day after work, I'd spend an hour at the coffee shop down the street building my case. I organized the photos of Jade's notebook into a clear timeline. I pulled together the IT logs showing the login from the marketing department. I documented every suspicious comment Jade had made, every smirk, every loaded remark about Alaska. I also started documenting our marriage, not in a vindictive way. I wasn't planning to use it against Maya in a divorce, but I needed to see it clearly to understand how we'd gotten here. I wrote about the nights she worked late while I ate dinner alone. The weekends she spent on her laptop while I suggested activities we used to enjoy. The conversations that had become monologues. The intimacy that had become obligation. The way she looked at me sometimes, not with hatred or even dislike, but with something worse, indifference. Reading it back, the pattern was undeniable. We'd stopped being partners years ago. We were roommates, convenient cohabitants, two people who shared a mortgage and a bed, but nothing else. And somewhere along the way, I'd stopped fighting for more. Maybe Jade was right about that part. Maybe I had become content. Boring, risk-averse. But I was about to change that. The night before my departure, I finally confronted them both. We were having dinner, a rare occurrence. Maya had cooked, or rather ordered, from our usual takeout place. Jade was chattering about something at work, some project she was spearheading, and Maya was nodding along with proud sister energy. I waited for a lull in the conversation. I need to say something, I announced. They both looked at me. Tomorrow I leave for Alaska. We know, Maya said carefully. We already discussed this. We didn't discuss anything. You dismissed my concerns, called me paranoid, and suggested I might be forging evidence to frame your sister. That's not a discussion. The temperature in the room dropped. Jade stopped eating, her fork suspended midway to her mouth. Marcus, Maya started. Let me finish. My voice was calm, steady, the voice of a man who'd made peace with his decisions. I have evidence that Jade submitted the transfer request. Written proof in her own handwriting. I ate logs showing the login came from the marketing department. A clear motive. And you didn't believe me. Worse, you accused me of framing her. I didn't accuse you of you implied I could have written the notebook myself. That's an accusation. Maya. She was quiet. I turned to Jade. You know what you did? I know what you did. And Maya knows, too, whether she wants to admit it or not. Jade's smirk was gone. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked uncertain. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, but her voice wavered. You called it Operation Marcus Removal. You wrote that you were doing Maya a favor by getting rid of me. You wrote that I was holding her back, that I didn't deserve her, that she'd thank you eventually. I recited it from memory. Ring any bells? Jade's face went white. Maya stood up. That's enough, Marcus. No, it's not. Because here's what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm getting on a plane to Alaska. I'm accepting the transfer not because I was forced to, but because I choose to. I choose to leave a marriage where my wife takes her sisters while I over her husband's. Where my word means nothing. Where I'm deemed unworthy by the people who are supposed to love me. You're being dramatic, Maya said. But there was fear in her eyes now. Am I? When's the last time you chose me, Maya? When's the last time you put our marriage first? When's the last time you even looked at me with something other than disappointment? She didn't answer. Exactly. I stood up. I've already started the divorce proceedings. You'll get the papers next week. I'm not asking for much, just a clean split of our assets. You keep the house. You keep your sister. You keep your career. And I'll keep my self-respect. Marcus, wait. But I was done waiting. One more thing, I said, turning to Jade. I've submitted your notebook and all the evidence to HR and to legal and to Maya's boss. Not as revenge, as documentation, because actions have consequences, Jade. And you don't get to sabotage someone's life and walk away without accountability. Jade's face crumpled. It was just supposed to be a prank. A prank? My laugh was hollow. You planned it for weeks. You stole my credentials. You submitted official documents under my name. That's not a prank. That's identity theft. That's corporate fraud. That's sabotage. Maya, tell him. Tell him what? Maya's voice was sharp now, her mask finally cracking. That you were just playing around. That you didn't mean it. She turned on her sister and I saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine anger. Directed at Jade. I saw the notebook, Jade. Marcus showed me the photos. You said you didn't believe them. I said he couldn't prove who wrote them. But I know your handwriting. I've known it since you learned to write. I recognized it immediately. The silence that followed was thunderous. You knew? I asked quietly. This whole time you knew. Maya's face collapsed. I hoped I was wrong. I wanted to be wrong. But you weren't. No. And you still chose her? She didn't answer, which was the answer enough. I nodded slowly. Goodbye, Maya. I hope you and your sister are very happy together. I walked out of the dining room, up the stairs, and into the bedroom we'd shared for 8 years. I finished packing my bags, and then I lay down on the bed for the last time, staring at the ceiling, waiting for dawn. Neither of them came to check on me. The airport was quiet at 6 a.m. I'd requested the earliest flight, not because I was eager to arrive in Alaska, but because I wanted to leave Seattle while the city was still sleeping. A coward's departure, maybe. Or maybe just a man who'd said everything he needed to say and had nothing left to prove. Maya had tried to talk to me that morning. I'd heard her footsteps outside the bedroom door, hesitant, uncertain. But she never knocked, never opened the door, just stood there for a long moment before walking away. That was our marriage in a nutshell. Two people standing on opposite sides of a door, neither willing to breach the distance. I called a cab instead of asking her for a ride. Loaded my bags, took one last look at the house, the garden I'd planted, the fence I'd repaired. The porch where we talked about having kids someday, and closed the door. The cab driver was chatty. I wasn't. At the airport, I checked my bags and found my gate. I had 2 hours until boarding, so I bought a coffee and found a seat by the window. That's when my phone started blowing up. First, a text from Maya. Please call me. We need to talk. Then another, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have stood by you. Then please don't do this. Don't throw away 8 years. I read each one feeling nothing. Or maybe feeling too much to identify any single emotion. Then a text from Jade. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. It was supposed to be a joke. Please don't ruin my career over this. I laughed at that one. A real laugh, dark and bitter. She was worried about her career, her MBA. Her internship, not about the marriage she'd destroyed, the trust she'd violated, the life she'd disrupted. Of course, I didn't respond to any of them. Then my phone rang. Maya's number. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail? Then a text. Please, Marcus, just answer. Just let me explain. I typed back, what is there to explain? You knew what she did and you still defended her. That's all I need to know. I was scared. I didn't want to believe my sister could be so cruel. And I didn't want to believe my wife could be so disloyal. But here we are. No response for a long time. Then what can I do to fix this? I thought about that. Really thought about it. Nothing. I finally typed. Some things can't be fixed. Some trust once broken can't be rebuilt. You chose her, Maya. In the moment when it mattered most, you chose her over me. And now I'm choosing myself. Marcus, please have a good life. Maya. I turned off my phone and put it in my bag. Boarding began 20 minutes later. The flight was long. Seattle to Anchorage is about 3.5 hours, but it felt like a lifetime. I had a window seat and spent most of the journey staring at the clouds below, trying to imagine what my life would look like in this new city. No wife, no sister-in-law, no house with memories in every corner, just me and my work in the vast Alaskan wilderness. The woman next to me was reading a romance novel. The couple on the cover looked impossibly happy, frozen in a moment of perfect connection. I wondered if Maya and I had ever looked like that. If anyone had ever seen us together and thought, that's what love looks like. Probably not. We've been comfortable once, content, but passionate, connected, in sync. Not for a long time. Maybe Jade, in her twisted way, had done me a favor. Ripped off the band-aid of a dying marriage rather than letting it fester for another decade. Or maybe I was just telling myself that to feel better about the wreckage of my life. The plane began its descent. Outside the window, I saw mountains, massive, snow-capped, ancient. They made Seattle's mountains look like hills and beyond them the ocean. Gray and endless, the edge of the world. First time in Alaska, the woman asked. Yes, business or pleasure? I thought about that. Fresh start? She smiled knowingly. Alaska's good for those. Something about all that space makes your problems feel smaller. I hope so. The plane touched down smoothly. When the seat belt sign turned off, everyone stood and crowded the aisle. I stayed seated, letting them pass. What was the rush? No one was waiting for me. Eventually, I gathered my things and walked off the plane into the jet bridge. The air was different immediately, colder, crisper, tinged with something that might have been pine or might have been freedom. I took a deep breath and started walking toward my new life. Meridian's Anchorage office was nothing like Seattle. For one thing, it was smaller, maybe 50 employees compared to Seattle's 500. The building itself was modern, but understated, glass and wood rather than steel and chrome. On my first day, I was greeted by Tom White, the regional manager who'd approved my transfer. He was in his 50s, weathered in a way that suggested years spent outdoors with a firm handshake and a warm smile. Marcus, we've been looking forward to having you. Your reputation precedes you. Hopefully a good reputation. He laughed. The best. Your systems architecture work on the Pacific Northwest grid was brilliant. We've been needing someone with that kind of expertise for our climate monitoring project. Climate monitoring. I'd read about it in the job description. A system to track environmental changes across Alaska's vast wilderness in real time. I'm excited about it, I said and meant it. Tom showed me around, introduced me to the team, a diverse group of engineers, scientists, and environmental specialists who seemed genuinely passionate about their work. No one asked why I transferred. No one made jokes about Seattle politics or corporate games. They were just happy to have someone with my skills. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. My apartment was a one-bedroom downtown with a view of the mountains. It was sparse, just a bed, a couch, a desk, but it was mine. That first night, I unpacked my bags and sat by the window, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold that I'd never seen in Seattle. My phone was still off. I wasn't ready to face whatever messages were waiting. Instead, I poured myself a drink and made a toast to no one. To fresh starts, I said aloud. The mountains didn't respond, but they didn't judge me either. The divorce papers were officially served to Maya 3 days after I arrived. I know this because that's when the deluge began. When I finally turned my phone back on, there were 47 missed calls from Maya, 23 from Jade, quote, from numbers I didn't recognize, probably lawyers or mediators or concerned family members. The texts were overwhelming. I scrolled through them with numb piano fingers. From Maya, please reconsider. This is too sudden, too drastic. I made a mistake. I know that now. Jade confessed everything. She broke down last night. She knows what she did was wrong. Can we at least try counseling? Marcus, 8 years. 8 years together. Doesn't that mean anything? I love you. I know I haven't shown it, but I do. Please call me. Please. From Jade. I'm so sorry. I was jealous and stupid. I thought I was protecting Maya, but I was just being vindictive. Please don't press charges. I've already been fired from the internship. Isn't that enough? I never meant to destroy your marriage. I just wanted you to leave. I didn't think you would actually divorce her. I read them all, feeling distant from the emotions they were trying to evoke. Then I typed a reply to Maya. I've received the messages. I appreciate the apology, but it doesn't change anything. The divorce will proceed as planned. I wish you the best, but I can't be part of your life anymore. Please respect my decision and stop contacting me. I sent it before I could second guess it myself. To Jade, I sent nothing. Within minutes, Maya called. I didn't answer. She called again and again. Finally, I answered. Marcus. Her voice was thick with tears. Oh, thank God. I've been going crazy. I told you to stop calling. I can't. I can't just let you go like this. We need to talk. Really talk. We needed to talk years ago, Maya, when you started prioritizing work over us. When you stopped seeing me as a partner. When you let your sister move in without even consulting me. But we didn't talk then. And it's too late now. It's not too late. It's never too late. Marcus, I love you. I know I don't say it enough. You don't say it at all. But I do, and I miss you. The house feels empty without you. The house always felt empty. You just didn't notice because you were always working. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, more vulnerable than I'd ever heard. You're right. I wasn't present. I was so focused on my career, on proving myself, on being this powerful CFO that I forgot to be a wife. And when Jade came to stay, I was so happy to have family around that I didn't see how she was manipulating me. She wasn't manipulating you, Maya. She was showing you something you wanted to see. She told you I wasn't good enough, that I was holding you back, and you believed her because part of you already felt that way. That's not true, isn't it? You called me content, boring, risk-averse. Those aren't words of love, Maya. Those are words of disappointment. I was frustrated. You were honest. And your honesty showed me that you didn't respect me. That you saw me as a burden rather than a partner. That you were ashamed to be married to someone who was just a systems architect while you were climbing the corporate ladder. I was never ashamed. Then why did you always introduce me as my husband Marcus and quickly change the subject? Why did you never talk about my work at your parties? Why did you seem embarrassed when I didn't know the latest industry gossip or didn't care about politics? She was crying now. I could hear it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I believe you're sorry, but sorry doesn't undo years of feeling invisible in my own marriage. Sorry doesn't rebuild trust that was shattered when you took your sister's side. Sorry doesn't make me want to come back to a life where I felt like an afterthought. What can I do? Tell me what to do and I'll do it. You can sign the divorce papers. You can let me go. You can build the life you actually want instead of dragging me along as an accessory. You're not an accessory. Goodbye, Maya. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I poured another drink and watched the sunset over the mountains. The next few weeks were a strange blend of grief and liberation. On one hand, I was mourning 8 years of marriage, a home, a life, dreams of children and growing old together, and all the things that couples talk about in the dark. On the other hand, I was breathing for the first time in years. At work, I threw myself into the climate monitoring project. It was challenging, rewarding, meaningful. For the first time in my career, I felt like I was making a difference. Tom noticed. You've got fire in you, Marcus. It's good to see. I didn't tell him about the divorce, about the scandal, about any of it. Here, I was just Marcus Chen, the brilliant systems architect from Seattle who chosen Alaska. Chosen. That word mattered more than anyone knew. I started exploring Anchorage on weekends, Hiked trails I'd never heard of, visited glaciers that predated humanity, stood on shores where the ocean met mountains in dramatic collision. The beauty was overwhelming and healing. One evening, I was at a coffee shop downtown working on some code when a woman at the next table struck up conversation. "You're not from here," she observed. "What gave it away?" "The way you keep looking out the window like you've never seen snow before." I laughed. "I'm from Seattle. We have snow. Not like this." Her name was Sarah. She was a wildlife photographer born and raised in Alaska. She had eyes the color of forest moss and a laugh that was as genuine as the wilderness she documented. We talked for an hour about Alaska, about her work, about what brought me here. "Fresh start," I said again. "I get that. Alaska attracts a lot of fresh starts. Does it deliver?" She smiled. "That depends on what you're starting fresh from." I told her some of it, not the whole story. That would take longer than one coffee conversation, but enough. A marriage that ended, a betrayal that catalyzed it. A choice to rebuild. She listened without judgment. "You know what the native Alaskans say?" She offered when I finished. "What?" "They say the land heals what people break. Give it time. Let the wilderness work its magic." I looked out the window at the mountains standing sentinel over the city. "I'm trying. That's all any of us can do." We exchanged numbers. Not in a romantic way. I wasn't ready for that. But in a way that felt like the beginning of friendship. Small steps. Maya stopped calling after the first month. I don't know if she'd given up or if my lawyer had intervened or if she'd finally accepted that our marriage was over. What I did get was a letter, not email, not text, an actual letter handwritten on cream stationery. Maya's handwriting was neat and controlled. The same handwriting I'd seen on 1,000 grocery lists and birthday cards. "Dear Marcus, I've respected your wish for space. But before we finalize everything, I needed to say some things. Not to change your mind. I understand now that your mind is made up. But because you deserve to hear them, you were right about everything. I didn't see you. I didn't value you. I was so caught up in my own ambition, my own world, that I forgot the person who'd been by my side through all of it. When Jade started saying those things about you, that you weren't ambitious enough, that you were content to coast, that you didn't match my drive, I listened, not because I believed them, but because they gave voice to frustrations I'd felt but was ashamed to acknowledge. I was frustrated, not with you really, but with myself. I'd sacrificed so much for my career, weekends, holidays, evenings, our relationship. And I needed to believe it was worth it. And somewhere along the way, I started seeing your contentment as the opposite of my ambition instead of what it really was, balance. You weren't holding me back. You were trying to pull me back. To remind me that there was more to life than quarterly reports and board meetings. But I didn't want to hear it. Jade saw that. She exploited it and I let her. When you showed me her notebook, I knew immediately it was her writing. I knew what she'd done. But I couldn't face it because facing it meant facing my own failures as a wife. Meant acknowledging that I'd created an environment where my sister felt justified in sabotaging my marriage for my own good. So I chose denial. And in doing so, I chose her over you. I don't blame you for leaving. I would have left too. What I do blame myself for is not fighting harder to make you stay. For not getting on my knees and begging you to give me another chance. For not showing you through actions that I could change. But maybe that's the point. If I'd really loved you the way you deserved, I wouldn't have needed to beg. You would have wanted to stay. I've signed the divorce papers. My lawyer will send them this week. You'll get everything you asked for. Not because I'm trying to assuage my guilt, but because it's fair. Jade has moved out. She went back to our parents' house. We're not speaking currently, which I know will surprise you given how fiercely I defended her. But some betrayals are too deep even for sisterly loyalty. She didn't just betray you, she betrayed me. She used my weaknesses against me, manipulated my fears, and destroyed my marriage with a smile. I'm working with a therapist. Learning to see the patterns that all led us here. Learning to be present instead of perpetually somewhere else. Learning that ambition without foundation is just running in circles. I hope Alaska is everything you need it to be. I hope you find the peace you're looking for. I hope someday you find someone who sees you clearly and loves you without reservation. You deserve that, Marcus. You always did. I'm sorry I couldn't be that person. With love and regret, Maya. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and placed it in the drawer where I kept important things. I didn't cry. I'd done enough of that. But I did pour myself a drink and sit by the window and let myself feel, really feel the weight of what had ended. 8 years. Not all bad, not all wasted, just over. And maybe that was okay. 3 months into my Alaska life, I got an email from HR that changed everything. Read investigation results transfer request incident. Dear Mr. Chen, following our comprehensive investigation into the unauthorized transfer request submitted under your credentials, we have concluded our findings. The investigation confirmed that the request was submitted without your authorization from a terminal in the marketing department. While the IT logs and additional evidence provided strongly suggest the involvement of a specific individual, corporate policy and legal considerations prevent us from disclosing their identity directly. However, you should be aware that the individual in question is no longer employed by Meridian Technologies effective 60 days ago. Additionally, based on the evidence, including the documentation you submitted, our legal team has recommended that you have grounds for civil action should you choose to pursue it. Furthermore, given the circumstances of your transfer and the confirmation that it was not voluntarily initiated, you are entitled to the following retention bonus of $50,000 for your agreement to remain in the Anchorage position. Full relocation reimbursement, which you had declined. Accelerated promotion consideration. Public apology from the company. Please let us know how you would like to proceed. Best regards, Corporate Human Resources. I sat at my desk reading the email multiple times. Jade had been fired. Not just let go, fired, which meant her termination would follow her. Her MBA would be shadowed by a dismissal for fraud and corporate misconduct. Part of me felt vindicated. She'd deserved consequences and she'd gotten them. But another part of me felt empty. This wasn't what justice felt like. Not really. I forwarded the email to my lawyer and asked him to draft a response declining civil action. Yes, I had grounds. Yes, I could probably win a lawsuit. But what would that accomplish? Jade was already suffering consequences. Maya was already dealing with the fallout. Dragging them through court wouldn't heal anything. It would just keep the wound open. The money was another matter. $50,000 was significant, and I deserved it, not as compensation for pain, but as acknowledgement that I'd been wronged and had handled it professionally. I accepted the retention bonus, and I declined the public apology. The last thing I wanted was attention drawn to my situation. I'd come to Alaska to start fresh, not to carry Seattle's drama with me. The months that followed were transformative. At work, I was thriving. The climate monitoring system was taking shape, and I was leading the architecture team with a passion I didn't know I had. Tom promoted me to senior systems architect officially this time, not just as a title bump. And I found myself actually excited about going to work each day. Socially, I was building something, too. Sarah and I had become close friends. Not romantic. I wasn't ready for that, and she sensed it without me having to explain. But she introduced me to her circle, other transplants, nature lovers, people who'd come to Alaska seeking something they couldn't find elsewhere. We hiked together, kayaked, spent evenings around campfires, swapping stories. It was the kind of community I'd never had in Seattle, where socializing meant cocktail parties and networking events. Here, people were real. I started seeing a therapist, too. DLC, no relation, despite the name, was a calm, insightful man who helped me process everything. You're not just divorcing your wife, he said during one session. You're divorcing your old self. The version of Marcus who accepted being overlooked, who didn't advocate for his own needs, who believed he wasn't worthy of more. Is that a bad thing? I asked. Not at all. It's growth. Painful, but necessary growth. Growth. Yes, that's what this was. 6 months after my arrival, the divorce was finalized. My lawyer called to tell me everything had been settled amicably. Maya had signed everything, contested nothing, given me exactly what I'd asked for. She's making this easy for you, he observed. She's trying to make up for making everything else so hard. Whatever the reason, you're officially single, Mr. Chen. Sling? The word felt strange. Heavy and light at the same time. And that night, I went to my favorite spot, a lookout point above Anchorage, where you could see the entire city laid out against the mountains. The sun was setting, painting everything in golden rose. I thought about Maya, about what we'd had, what we'd lost. I thought about Jade, her cruelty, her misguided sisterly loyalty, her consequences. I thought about myself, the man I'd been, the man I was becoming. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness exactly, not yet. But peace, a settling of the soul, a quieting of the restless ache that had plagued me for so long. I pulled out my phone and did something impulsive. I texted Maya. The divorce is finalized. I wanted to say thank you for not making it difficult. And I wanted to say that I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine. Carrying anger is exhausting, and I'm tired of being tired. I hope you find what you're looking for. Truly, I sent it before I could overthink. Her response came quickly. Thank you, Marcus. That means more than you know. I hope you find what you're looking for, too. And I hope someday maybe we can be friends. But I'll respect whatever you need. Friends, maybe someday, years from now. Or maybe not. Either way was okay. 9 months into Alaska, I had an unexpected visitor. I was at work when Tom stopped by my desk. "Marcus, there's someone in the lobby asking for you. Says she's your sister-in-law." My blood ran cold. "Tell her I'm not available." Tom looked confused but nodded. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. "Marcus, it's Jade. I know you don't want to see me, and I don't blame you, but I flew all the way here because I needed to apologize in person. Please, just 10 minutes. I'll say what I need to say and leave. You'll never hear from me again. I promise." I stared at the message. Every instinct told me to ignore it, to maintain the distance I'd created, to protect my peace. But another part of me, the part that was healing, growing, becoming, knew that unfinished business had a way of haunting you. I texted back, "Coffee shop on 4th Street, 6 p.m. You have 15 minutes. She looked different, smaller, somehow, dimmer. The confident, smirking Jade I'd known was gone, replaced by someone who looked like she hadn't slept well in months. She was sitting at a corner table when I arrived, clutching a cup of tea like it was a lifeline. When she saw me, tears immediately filled her eyes. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. I sat across from her. "You have 15 minutes, she nodded. "I don't know where to start. How about with why?" She took a shaky breath. "I loved Maya. I still do. She's my big sister, my role model, my everything. And when I came to stay with you both, I saw how unhappy she was, how stressed, how stretched thin between work and home. And you blamed me. I did. I thought you were the problem. You were so calm, so content. While she was killing herself to climb the corporate ladder, you were just existing. I thought you were dead weight. Thought if I could just remove you from the equation, she'd be free to fly. By destroying my career and my marriage by giving her options. That's how I justified it. Not destroying, freeing. That's a convenient way to frame sabotage." She flinched. "I know, God. I know. I've had months to sit with what I did. Months of therapy, of self-reflection, of Maya not speaking to me." Her voice cracked. "Do you know what it's like to lose your sister? The person you thought you were protecting? I know what it's like to lose a wife. And that's my fault. Yes." She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Marcus. I'm so incredibly sorry. I was arrogant and cruel and I ruined everything. Your marriage, your career, your trust in people, my relationship with Maya, everything." I let her cry. Didn't comfort her. Didn't judge her. Just let her feel the weight of what she'd done. Finally, she collected herself. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm asking for acknowledgement that I know what I did was wrong, that I'm getting help, that I'm trying to be better, and flying across the country to tell me this accomplishes what exactly? Closure for both of us. I needed you to see that I'm not the person who wrote those things in that notebook. Not anymore. I was jealous and vindictive, and I hurt someone who didn't deserve it. But I'm trying to change. Are you?" Yes, I studied her, looking for signs of manipulation, of hidden agenda, but all I saw was a broken young woman who'd made a terrible choice and was living with the consequences. "You want acknowledgement?" I said finally. She nodded. "Fine. I acknowledge that you made a mistake, a serious, damaging mistake that hurt multiple people. I acknowledge that you seem to regret it, and I acknowledge that you're trying to be better." I leaned forward. "But Jade, acknowledgement isn't forgiveness, and it's not absolution. What you did had real consequences. Your actions, your prank, as you called it, ended a marriage, upended my life, and damaged your relationship with your sister. Those consequences don't disappear because you're sorry. I know. Do you?" "Yes." She met my eyes. "I lost everything, too, Marcus. My internship, my reputation, my sister. The MBA I worked so hard for is useless because no one will hire me with a termination for fraud on my record. I'm living with my parents, working part-time at a bookstore, trying to figure out what to do with my life." She laughed hollow and sad. "I wanted to save Maya from a life I thought was beneath her. Instead, I destroyed my own future. Poetic justice, I thought, but I didn't say it. What do you want from me, Jade? Really?" She thought about it. "I want to know that someday, maybe years from now, you'll be able to think of me without hating me. That you'll remember I was young and stupid and made a terrible choice, but that I owned it and tried to be better. I don't hate you. You don't. Hate takes energy, and I don't want to give you that much power over my emotions anymore." She nodded slowly. "That's fair. I don't hate you, I repeated. But I don't want you in my life either. Not now. Maybe not ever. You need to be okay with that. I am. Good. I stood up. Your 15 minutes are up. Marcus, I paused. Thank you for listening. For not just throwing me out, for being decent even after everything. I'm trying to be the kind of person I want to be. And that person doesn't throw people out without hearing them. Even people who have hurt him. Maya was wrong about you. You're not content in a bad way. You're solid, grounded, and apparently I'm not the only one who didn't see that until it was too late. Goodbye, Jade. Goodbye, Marcus. I left the coffee shop and walked into the Alaskan evening. The mountains were there, same as always, solid, grounded. Maybe we weren't so different after all. A year into my Alaska life, something shifted. Not externally. Externally, things were going well. My work was fulfilling. My friendships were genuine. My apartment was starting to feel like home. No, what shifted was internal. I realized I was happy. Not the ecstatic fireworks happiness of new love or major achievement, but a quiet, steady happiness, the kind that comes from being exactly where you're supposed to be. I noticed it on a random Tuesday evening. I was making dinner, actually making it, not just reheating takeout and listening to music. Nothing fancy, just pasta with vegetables and a decent wine. And I was humming. When's the last time I'd hummed? Years, probably. In Seattle, my evenings had been silent. Maya worked late or brought work home. We'd eat in front of our respective screens, then retreat to separate corners of the house. But here, in my small Anchorage apartment with mountains out the window and pasta on the stove, I was humming. That night, I called her Chen. I think I'm happy, I told him. He laughed. You sound surprised. I am. After everything, I didn't think I'd get here. What does here feel like? I thought about it. Peaceful, present, like I'm finally living my life instead of just existing in it. That's wonderful, Marcus. Really? You've done hard work to get here. Feels like the hard work is just beginning. What do you mean? I mean, I've healed from my marriage, from the betrayal, from the self-doubt. But now comes the scary part, which is building something new. Opening myself up to possibility again, risking pain. Growth always requires risk. I know, but after being burned so badly, you're afraid. Terrified. That's normal and healthy. It means you take connection seriously. I do. So, what are you going to do about it? I knew the answer even as I asked the question. Sarah and I were hiking one weekend, a trail she'd done dozens of times, but I'd never attempted. The kind of hike that left you breathless, not from exhaustion, but from beauty. I'm thinking about staying, I told her as we rested on a rocky overlook. She looked at me. You weren't sure? At first, no. I thought Alaska was temporary, a healing place. Eventually, I'd go back to Seattle, back to my real life. And now, Vay, I realize this is my real life. The one I actually want, not the one I thought I should want. She smiled. Alaska has a way of doing that. Showing you what matters. What about you? Did Alaska show you what matters? Every day. We sat in comfortable silence, watching an eagle circle overhead. Marcus, yeah, I'm glad you stayed. Me, too. That night, I did something I'd been considering for weeks. I wrote a letter not to Maya or Jade, to myself. Dear Marcus, it's been a year since you stepped off that plane into the Anchorage air. A man fleeing pain and searching for meaning. You found both. The pain, it hasn't disappeared. Some nights you still wake up with an ache where your marriage used to be. Some days you catch yourself about to text Maya something funny, then remember you can't. Some moments you wonder if you made the right choice, if you gave up too easily, if things could have been different. They couldn't have. You know that now. Your marriage ended not with the transfer request, not with the notebook, not with Maya's defense of her sister. It ended slowly over years as two people stopped seeing each other. The rest was just the revelation. The moment the lights came on and you saw clearly what had been happening in the dark and the meaning you found it in unexpected places, in work that matters, in friendships built on authenticity, in evenings spent hiking mountains instead of climbing corporate ladders, in the simple pleasure of being present in your own life. You're different now, not content. That word has been weaponized, used to diminish you. You're grounded, at peace, whole in a way you weren't before. And you're ready. Ready to open your heart again. Ready to risk connection. Ready to build something new without the blueprints of your old life. The mountains taught you that. They stand tall not because they're invulnerable, but because they've weathered everything that came at them. Storms, earthquakes, erosion, and remained rooted in who they are. You're rooted now, too. Be proud of that. With respect and hope, Marcus. I folded the letter and placed it in my important drawer next to Maya's. Then I poured myself a drink, stood by my window, and watched the sunset over my mountains. 2 weeks later, something happened that I hadn't anticipated. I got an email from Maya. Not a text, not a call, an email. The formality of it was striking. This was the woman I'd shared a bed with for 8 years. And now we communicated through carefully composed emails. Subject: Congratulations, dear Marcus. I hope this email finds you well. I've been hesitant to reach out respecting the boundaries you've established, but I saw something today that I thought you should know about. Your climate monitoring system made the news. There was a feature in the Seattle Times about innovative environmental technology, and your project was prominently featured. They interviewed your regional manager, Tom, who couldn't stop praising your work, called it groundbreaking and essential. I was proud of you, am proud of you. Not in a proprietary way. I've lost the right to claim any ownership of your successes, but in a genuine, from a distance way. You've built something meaningful there, something that matters, and you did it on your own terms, in your own time, in your own way. I realized something reading that article. You weren't content. You were waiting. Waiting for something worthy of your passion, and you found it. I'm sorry I never saw that in you. Sorry I interpreted your steadiness as stagnation. Your calm as complacency, your patience as lack of ambition. You were always remarkable, Marcus. I just had my eyes closed, wishing you continued success and happiness. I read it 3 times. Then I did something I hadn't done in over a year. I called her. She picked up on the second ring. Marcus? Her voice was thick with surprise. I got your email. I wasn't expecting you to call. Neither was I. A long pause. Not awkward exactly. Just waited with all the unsaid things between us. How are you? She finally asked. Good. Really good, actually. I can hear it in your voice. You sound different. I am different. Good. Different. Yes, I think so. Another pause. Marcus, I meant what I said in the email. I'm proud of you. What you've built there. It's not about what I've built, Maya. I mean, it's about who I've become. Who have you become? I thought about it. Someone who knows his worth. Who doesn't need external validation. Who measures success by fulfillment, not achievement. That's beautiful. It's taken a lot of work. I know. I've been doing my own work, too. Yeah. Lots of therapy, soul-arching, figuring out who I am when I'm not chasing the next promotion or drowning in work. And who are you? She laughed, a sad sound. Still figuring that out. But I know who I'm not. I'm not the woman who sacrifices her marriage for her career. Not anymore. That's growth. It's painful growth. The only kind that matters. We talked for another hour about everything and nothing. About her work, she'd stepped back, taken a less demanding role. About Jade, they were slowly rebuilding their relationship. About Alaska, she wanted to visit someday. About the future, both our futures, separate but somehow still intertwined in that way of people who once loved each other. When we finally hung up, I felt something release in my chest. Closure maybe, or maybe just peace. The next morning, Sarah and I met for coffee. You look different, she observed. I talked to Maya last night. Her eyebrows rose. And I think I'm finally past it. Like really past it. Not pretending I'm fine past it. Actually past it. What does that feel like? Like I've put down a weight I didn't realize I was carrying. She smiled. That's huge, Marcus. It is. So what now? What do you mean? I mean, you've done the hard work. You've healed. You've built a life here. You've even made peace with your ex. She leaned forward. What's next? I looked at her. Really looked at her. Her forest moss eyes, her genuine smile, her soul that seemed to understand things without needing them explained. Sarah. Yeah. Would you want to have dinner with me? Not as friends, as something else. Her smile widened. I thought you'd never ask. Our first official date was on a Friday evening. I picked her up at her studio apartment, a cozy space filled with her photographs, all that Alaskan wilderness captured in stunning detail. You're nervous, she observed as I fumbled with my jacket. Is it that obvious? You've rearranged your collar 3 times, I laughed. I haven't done this in a long time. Done what? Dated or felt something real for someone? Both. She took my hand. Me neither. So, we'll figure it out together. We went to a restaurant. I discovered quiet, intimate, with a view of the mountains that never got old. Over dinner, we talked. Not about my past, not about her past, but about now. About what we wanted, what we feared, what we hoped for. I want to build something real, I told her. Something grounded in mutual respect where both people are seen and valued. That's not too much to ask for. In my experience, it is. Then your experience has been with the wrong people. I looked at her across the candlelight. Maybe she was right. The weeks that followed were wonderful. Sarah and I took things slow. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates, turned into weekend hikes, turned into lazy Sunday mornings. She was everything Maya wasn't. Present, attentive, grounded in the moment rather than always reaching for the next thing. But more than that, she saw me. Not the version of me that was lacking something, but the whole person. My calm was wisdom, not complacency. My contentment was peace, not resignation. My steadiness was strength, not weakness. You know what I love about you? She said one evening as we watched the northern lights dance across the sky. What? You're complete. Not in a way that doesn't need anyone else. In a way that chooses to share what you have rather than seeking someone to fill your gaps. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. It's all so true. I pulled her close. I think I'm falling for you, I said. Good, because I'm already there. 6 months later, I got a letter from Maya. Not an email this time, an actual letter like before. Dear Marcus, I heard through the corporate grapevine that you're seeing someone. I won't pretend it doesn't sting, knowing you've moved on, knowing you found someone who sees what I failed to see. But the sting is my own issue, born of regret, not jealousy. You deserve happiness, Marcus. You always did. I'm writing because I'm getting married again. To someone I met in therapy of all places. His name is David. He's a writer. Quiet, introspective, grounded, the opposite of who I thought I wanted, which means he's probably exactly what I need. We're not rushing things. After the way my marriage to you ended, I'm terrified of making the same mistakes. David understands that. He's patient, present, reminds me to slow down, to be here, to not let ambition consume everything else. Sound familiar? I learned that lesson too late to save us. But maybe not too late to build something healthy with someone else. I wanted you to know, not for permission or blessing, but because you're still someone whose opinion matters to me, even from a distance, even as a memory. I hope you're happy in Alaska. I hope your work continues to thrive. I hope your relationship brings you the joy and partnership you deserve. And I hope someday we can be friends. Real friends. The kind who can wish each other well without residual pain. I'm getting there. With warmth and gratitude, Maya. I read the letter to Sarah that evening. How does it make you feel? She asked. Peaceful. Genuinely happy for her. No jealousy. No regret. None. We weren't right for each other. We both know that now. And we've both found people who are right for us. That's mature. That's growth. She kissed me. I love who you are. I love who I'm becoming. 2 years after my arrival in Alaska, I stood at that same lookout point where I'd first found peace. So much had changed. The climate monitoring system was fully operational, receiving national attention for its innovation. Tom had promoted me to lead architect for the entire region. Sarah and I had moved in together, a house on the outskirts of Anchorage with enough land for her to set up a proper photography studio and enough space for us to build a life. We'd adopted a dog, a husky mix named Bear, who seemed as at home in the wilderness as we were. The divorce felt like a lifetime ago, not forgotten, never forgotten, but integrated into my story rather than defining it. Maya and I exchanged emails occasionally, friendly, warm, without the weight of our past. She'd married David, seemed happy, had found balance. Even Jade had found her way. She'd gone back to school, pivoted to social work. We weren't friends, probably never would be, but the anger had faded. She was trying to be better, and that was all anyone could do. Standing on that overlook, mountains stretching endlessly before me, I thought about the journey, the betrayal that felt like devastation. The decision that felt like escape, the rebuild that felt like salvation. And the revelation, the slow, painful, necessary revelation that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing for you. Not because trauma is good, not because betrayal is justified, but because how you respond to pain defines who you become. I'd been given a choice. Stay bitter or grow better. I chose growth. Years later, 5 to be exact, I found myself in a coffee shop in downtown Anchorage, waiting. Sarah was meeting me there after a gallery showing of her work. She'd become known for her environmental photography, images that captured both the beauty and the fragility of Alaska's wilderness. I was proud of her, of us, of what we'd built. We'd married 2 years ago in a small ceremony by a glacier. Just us, a few close friends, and the witnesses that mattered most. The mountains, the water, the endless sky, no drama, no betrayal, no family politics, just love witnessed by wilderness. I was scrolling through my phone when someone walked up to my table. Marcus. I looked up and there was Jade. She looked different, older, more settled. The anxious, vindictive energy I remembered was gone, replaced by something calmer. Jade, I thought it was you, small world. What are you doing in Alaska? Work trip. I'm with a non-profit now doing community outreach. She hesitated. Can I sit just for a minute? I gestured to the chair across from me. How long has it been? She asked. 5 years since you came to apologize, and before that. 6 years since the transfer. 6 years. She shook her head. Feels like a lifetime ago. It was a lifetime ago. We're all different people now. Are we though? Or are we just better versions of who we were? I considered that. Maybe both. I've thought about you over the years. Wondered if you were happy, if you'd found what you were looking for. I have. Good. She smiled, a genuine smile. Nothing like the smirk I remembered. I'm glad. How's Maya? She's good. Really good. David's wonderful for her. They just bought a house in Portland. She's doing consulting now. Flexible hours, better work-life balance. She seems peaceful. That's good to hear. And you and she, we email sometimes. Nothing heavy, just checking in. That's healthy. It is. Sarah walked in, then spotted me, and came over with a bright smile. Hey, you. Gallery went great. They sold 3 pieces. That's amazing. I stood to kiss her. Jade watched us, and I saw something flicker across her face. Not jealousy, understanding maybe, or recognition. Sarah, this is Jade, Maya's sister. Sarah's expression flickered, too. She knew the story, but she recovered quickly. Nice to meet you, she said, extending her hand. Jade took it. You too. Marcus talks about you in his emails to Maya. He's clearly very happy. We are. We made small talk for a few more minutes. Then Jade stood. I should go. My team is waiting. Take care of yourself, Jade. You too, Marcus. She paused. Thank you. For what? For being gracious after everything. For not hating me. I never hated you. I told you that. But you could have and you didn't. That says a lot about who you are. She left. Sarah took her seat, looking at me with curiosity. That was strange, unexpected, surreal. All of the above. She took my hand. Are you okay? I am actually really okay. What did she say? Nothing earth-shattering. Just closure, I guess. Final closure. Do you need that? I thought I already had it, but maybe there are layers to closure. This felt like the last one. How so? I thought about it. I could look at her without anger, without hurt, without any of the old wounds aching. She's just a person who made mistakes and is trying to be better. That's very zen of you. 5 years of therapy will do that, she laughed. Fair point. We ordered dinner and talked about her gallery showing, about the pieces that sold, about the plans for her next series. Normal things, good things. And as we talked, I felt the final weight lift. Not just closure on Jade, not just closure on the transfer or the divorce or the betrayal. Closure on the version of me who needed to prove anything. I was here in Alaska with Sarah, building a life that was meaningful and grounded and real. The rest was just story. That night, after Sarah fell asleep, I went to my writing desk. I pulled out the letter I'd written myself years ago. Read it over. Then I wrote a new one. Dear Marcus, it's been 6 years since you left Seattle on that plane. 6 years since you chose yourself. 6 years since the worst thing became the best thing. Look at you now, married to someone who sees you, working on projects that matter. Living in a place that feels like home. Surrounded by mountains that remind you daily of who you are. Solid, grounded, weathered, but strong. You did it. Not the revenge you might have wanted in those early days. Not the dramatic takedown, the public humiliation, the vindication that proves your worth to everyone who doubted you. Something better. You lived well. You built peace. You chose growth over bitterness. And in doing so, you became someone you're proud to be. The betrayal that brought you here, it wasn't fair, wasn't just, wasn't deserved. But your response to it, that was all you. You took pain and made it purpose. You took betrayal and made it beginning. You took the worst hand you'd been dealt and played it into a winning game. Not a win against anyone, a win for yourself. And that, Marcus, is the quiet revenge, the elegant justice, the truth that serves as its own vindication. You're living proof that happiness is the best revenge. Not because it punishes your betrayers. It doesn't, but because it proves that they didn't break you. You stand here today whole and healed and hopeful. Not despite what happened, but because of how you chose to respond. That's power. That's justice. That's grace. Be proud, Marcus. You've earned it. With love and respect, your past swam, your present self, and your future self, all one and the same. I folded the letter, set it aside, and went to bed next to my wife. In our house, in our Alaska, in our life, the mountain stood watch outside our window. The snow fell softly, covering everything in silence. And somewhere far away, the life I'd left behind continued without me. Not destroyed, not avenged, just distant. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 10 years, a full decade since I'd boarded that plane in Seattle. I was standing on the same lookout point where so much of my healing had happened. But this time, I wasn't alone. Sarah was beside me, her camera around her neck as always. And in my arms, bundled against the morning chill, was our daughter. We'd named her Aurora for the Northern Lights. We'd watched on our first date for the constant wonder of our Alaska life. She was too, all curious eyes and grabbing hands and questions about everything. Mountains, she said, pointing. That's right, sweetheart. Mountains. Big. Very big. Mama, take picture. Sarah laughed. Mama always takes pictures. We stood there, the three of us, watching the sunrise paint the sky gold, rose, purple, infinite. I thought about all the sunrises I'd watched in this place. The first one full of grief and confusion. The ones that followed, marking my slow climb toward peace. And now this one marking something else entirely. Completion. Not the end of my story. Life was too vast for endings, but the completion of a chapter. The one that started with betrayal and ended with grace. Daddy happy? Aurora asked, tugging on my jacket. I looked down at her. This perfect little human who existed because I'd had the courage to leave a life that wasn't serving me. Daddy's very happy, sweetheart. Good, she turned back to the mountains, satisfied. Sarah slipped her hand into mine. Worth it? She asked. She was asking about more than this morning. About the journey, the pain, the growth, the years of work it took to get here. Every single moment, I said. Even the hard ones, especially those. She squeezed my hand. Aurora pointed at something in the distance. Bird. Big bird. An eagle soaring on the thermals, completely at home in the sky. Can I fly, Daddy? You can do anything, sweetheart. And I meant it because I was living proof. That afternoon, while Aurora napped and Sarah edited photos, I sat down at my desk for the last time. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not another letter to myself. This time I was writing to anyone who'd listened, to anyone who'd been betrayed, to anyone who felt trapped in a life that didn't fit. To anyone who wondered if it was too late to start over. I wrote about the transfer, about the notebook, about the choice I made to leave instead of stay and fight a battle I couldn't win. I wrote about the divorce, the anger, the grief, the long process of healing. I wrote about Alaska, the mountains that taught me strength, the wilderness that taught me patience, the people who taught me that connection matters more than achievement. I wrote about Sarah, about love that sees clearly, about partnership that elevates rather than diminishes. I wrote about Aurora, about second chances and new beginnings. And I wrote about the quiet revenge of living well. Not because revenge is virtuous. It isn't. But because there's justice in proving that you're unbreakable. There's power in building beauty from ashes. There's grace in wishing your betrayers well while walking away towards something better. The story took weeks to write, months to refine. When it was done, I sent it to a few close friends, then to a writing group Sarah had introduced me to, then finally to a publisher. They called it powerful, resonant, important. I called it truth. The book was published the following year. It was modest success. Nothing that would make me rich or famous. But it found its audience. People who'd been betrayed, people starting over, people looking for proof that it was possible to emerge from darkness into light. The emails I received were overwhelming. Your story gave me the courage to leave my toxic marriage. I've been holding on to anger for years. You showed me there's another way. Thank you for proving that healing is possible. Each one meant more than any professional accolade ever had. Maya reached out after reading it. I hope this doesn't overstep, but I read your book. I cried through most of it, not from hurt, but from recognition. You told our story with such grace, such fairness. You didn't vilify me or Jade. You just told the truth. And the truth, as painful as it is freeing. Thank you for that. Thank you for being better than I deserved. Even Jade sent a message. I'm in a 12-step program for codependency. Your book has required a reading for step 9, making amends. It's helped me understand the impact of my actions in ways my therapist couldn't. I'm grateful you wrote it and I'm grateful you chose healing over hate. But the message that meant the most came from a stranger, a woman named Lisa somewhere in Ohio. Dear Marcus, I was where you were 5 years ago, betrayed by people I trusted, devastated, stuck in a life that felt like prison. I'd given up hope of ever being happy again. Then I read your story and something shifted. I realized that my betrayers had taken enough from me. They didn't get to take my future, too. I'm writing to tell you that I left, moved across the country, started over. It's been hard and scary and lonely sometimes, but it's also been real and true and mine. I wanted to thank you, not for showing me that happiness is easy. It's not, but for showing me that it's possible. That's all I needed to know. Thank you for your courage. It gave me mine. I read Lisa's email to Sarah that night. She cried. You did that, she said. You helped her. By being brave enough to tell your story, you helped someone find their own courage. I just told the truth. Truth is powerful. I'm learning that. These days, life is beautifully ordinary. I work for Meridian still remotely now since CO changed everything. The climate monitoring system has expanded to 4 states and I oversee it all from my home office with mountain views. Sarah's photography has gained international recognition. She's been featured in National Geographic, documenting Alaska's changing ecosystems with her artist eye and scientist heart. Aurora is 5 now, full of wonder and questions and that particular joy that children have before the world teaches them to be cynical. We have another child on the way, a boy we've learned. We're naming him Kai after the sea that borders our wild home. My relationship with Maya has settled into something I never expected. Genuine friendship. We talk monthly, share holidays distantly, wish each other well sincerely. David is good for her, she's good for him. They're happy in ways we never were. Jade has become a social worker specializing in family mediation. Ironic perhaps, or maybe exactly right. Who better to help families navigate betrayal than someone who's caused it and learned from it? We're not friends, but we're not enemies either. We're just people who were part of a story that shaped us all. Last week, Aurora asked me about the mountains. Why do you love them so much, Daddy? I thought about my answer. Because they're strong, I said finally. They've been through everything. Storms, earthquakes, fires, and they're still here, still standing, still beautiful like you. Children see so clearly sometimes. Yeah, sweetheart. Like me. I want to be like the mountains, too. You already are. She smiled, my smile, Sarah tells me, and went back to her coloring. I watched her for a long moment. This child who exists because I chose to heal instead of hate. This life that exists because I chose to grow instead of stagnate. This future that exists because I chose myself instead of settling. 10 years ago, I boarded a plane believing I was running away. Turns out I was running toward peace, toward purpose, toward home. The betrayal that brought me here, it wasn't fair, but it was a beginning. And this life, this good and grounded and grateful life, this is the ending I wrote for myself. Not with revenge, not with anger, not with proving anything to anyone, just with truth, just with growth, just with grace. The mountains outside my window catch the evening light, turning golden rug, ancient and eternal. I pour myself a drink, raise it to the wilderness that saved me, and smile because they wanted me gone. And I went, and I found everything I'd been missing. That's not tragedy. That's not revenge. That's just life.